Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Mic'd Podcast. I'm Mike, a hairdresser of over 20 years. One of the best parts of my job is the conversations that I get to have with all of my clients. We talk about anything and everything, and invite you to listen in as we get mic'd up for today's conversation.
Today in the chair we have Garth. Garth used to dance on Broadway in New York. He was a flight attendant, started a dance company, and now is one of the greatest suit makers in all of Utah. Today he talks to us about his life story and how he manages to still look to the future. I hope you enjoy.
All right. Here it is. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
So excited to be here.
All right.
You need to use warm water when you speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll put warm water in next time, I promise.
Okay.
I swear.
Yeah.
I apologize. Here, I'll use some of this. This might be a little nicer.
So what does this do?
So this is just like a nice leave-in conditioner for your hair, so I hopefully don't have to keep spraying it down. But, all right, Garth. Well,
Okay.
I'm excited that you're here because
I'm excited to be here. So
I'm trying to think. We've known each other
forever.
20.
More than,
Because it was clear back at the very first salon that I ever worked at that you came in, and that was 22 years ago that I started working in this salon.
Yep.
But I don't know. I feel like you are one of these people that have had such an amazing life. I'm excited to kind of just recap. I mean, a lot of the stuff I know and I've heard before, but I wanted to have you on here today just so that I could repeat some of this stuff and really let people know who Garth is, because
so I can be blackmailed? Okay.
yes, so I can use that information one day to,
Well, like I said earlier, I've had a very interesting and amazing life for me.
Yeah.
Other people will go, not too big. But, when you say I've had a life, I think I've had 4 lives. I danced professionally and then became an international flight attendant. Had the biggest dance studio in the West that I created. Now I sell custom clothing for men. So pretty exciting.
Well, but I mean, that's the part that I think. I mean, let's go back to let's start to the first one. So what got you into, because you danced professionally, danced on Broadway?
Well, I danced. I grew up here in beautiful downtown Provo, and took from a lady that was, I guess, pretty good. I just knew I wanted to dance. I knew that since I was a little kid.
Really? So at what age do you feel like
I think I started
dance
dancing.
really kind of took its toll to where you're like, this is what I want to do? Like, how old were you?
Maybe 8.
Okay.
Pretty young. And so you grow up in Provo back then, being the weirdo. And I moved to Hollywood the day after I graduated from BYU. Packed my car, drove past Vegas, and went, oh my heck, I'm not going back. Just kept driving, and it was shocking because I know no one. What am I doing?
So did you study dance at BYU then?
I did. I danced with folk dancers in ballroom. Back then, they told me I had to choose after about 4 months because they were going to do the same tour together. So I chose folk.
So how is folk different than ballroom?
Ballroom is...
Because if they're having you choose, I would think that they're completely different.
Well, ballroom's changed so much from back then. It was very rigid, in tuxedos, the whole thing, the little finer, where folk is country dancing from Russia or Ukraine or Utah, America. My favorite was Ukraine, of course, with all the trick steps and everything, and I loved it. The lady that was over, Mary B. Jensen, was amazing. Toured the world, and I was thinking of her the other day. I thought, here's a person that from Provo was friends with my mother in high school, and she knows presidents of different countries, and it's pretty amazing who we get to know. And she was a big influence on my life. And I think my wife, Dee Lynn, she and Mary B were like mother-daughter.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing.
So was she the one that kind of encouraged you to go to Hollywood?
Not really.
Or was she like, don't go there, it'll ruin you?
No. She just, I was offered a job at BYU, and I went, no, I want to dance professionally. So I moved to LA.
And so what happened once you got to LA?
I knew nothing.
But is it kind of the same? Like, I've always heard stories about people that moved to LA and they have these dreams of becoming dancers or stars or whatever. Are you going through like a bazillion auditions? Are you going, like, how do you end up getting to the point that you're landing paid gigs?
You go to auditions and like interviews for a regular person. You go to interview, and how many do you go through to get the job you want? And I started taking classes in LA, dance classes. Then went to an audition and got kicked out the first day.
What'd you get kicked out for?
Because I wasn't that good. I thought I was God's gift to the world, but and you know, growing up here, I won't say bullied. I was picked on and teased being a dancer. Then I got a gig, and I was pretty cool. I got a gig with a very important dancer, and I came back here to visit my family, and one of the guys who picked on me in high school, I bump into him, and he goes, can I get your autograph? And I went, what? Why would you want my autograph? I was just a dancer. But no, it was a neat part of my life.
So so you get your first gig, and did you keep that job for a while? Or
about a year. Dance, things change really quickly. Some shows you'll audition for, and they want somebody that'll fit into that costume because they spent so much money for costumes. So I may walk in, and they go, you're too short. They want someone who's about 6 feet for most shows. The way cameras are angled and that, you can't tell what height they are. Broadway is very different. You walk on stage and they want someone to fill that costume. But
so you did make it onto Broadway, didn't you?
I danced. Yeah, I auditioned for. Well, everybody wanted to be in Chorus Line. It was the biggest show on Broadway, and that's the one they said, well, thank you, come again. And I find out I'm way too short. And then Fiddler on the Roof was exciting. That's the one I did, and I did the bottle dance where the bottle is on your head, and you can't. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. If you ever see the movie, it's you have this bottle, you have a hat, and there are 5 dancers lined up, and you hold little fingers, and you go down on your knees and have to do all this Jewish kind of
the one
thing.
where they're like, they drop.
No, that's Ukrainian.
Okay.
So that's the Russian, not
the
Ukrainian. But the bottle dance is, you have your fingers out, and they go down, and you do legs out, and you pull yourself across the stage, and your bottle's on your head, and it was fun. And
Do you want to give us a demo?
Nope, I'm union.
Show us how it's done.
I'm union, sorry. You can't afford me. But no, for me, it was an exciting part of my life, because that's what I wanted.
So how long did you stay out in Hollywood?
Couple of years. I got a show that traveled around the world and did that. Then moved to New York, and it's wow. If you're good, you better be damn good. New York's the best. So if you think you're good in one thing and you move to New York, you find out you're okay. And I don't know if I didn't have the drive or the ambition to really want to be that big of a deal. is you really have to be. And you have to give credit to those people you see on TV and or who do movies. That it's work. And you have to go every day and be your best.
Yeah. So then did New York was kind of like I don't want to say like a reality check, but it was like, it made you say, okay, maybe I don't want to do this. Is that the point where you were like, I want to teach, or I want to come, like, start a studio, or?
I wanted to stay there. I definitely fell in love with New York. If I had the kind of money to enjoy, I would move back. It's very expensive, but it was amazing. You go to auditions, and you're not the oddball. Like growing up in Provo, I was the weirdo and the oddball. And all of a sudden, I go to church, and my bishop's the president of Chase Manhattan Bank. And you're sitting here going, and then some of the best hairdressers in the world are sitting next to me, and I just, yeah. So it's really a wonderful experience, because you're sitting next to people who are the best.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that's one of the things in New York is like, they even say, like, even riding the subway, it's like nobody's too good to ride the subway. You can be around CEOs of big companies, or you can be around the janitors of those same companies, and they all ride and sit next to each other in the subway. It's the same.
Yeah, I mean, back then, I don't know if you'd
maybe
want to ride a subway now.
No, now they do Uber helicopters.
Well, it's so much faster to get on the subway. It's just you go to E-train or the F-train, and you're where you want to be. I remember limos picking me up in L.A. and taking me, and it was cool. I mean, you're pampered.
So, I mean, truly, though, like, it sounds like you were good enough to be in New York and actually sustain a lifestyle. Like,
I did okay. New York took a hit. Broadway, the economy, everything was getting bad, and shows were not hiring like they used to, or there wasn't as many options. So I was, a friend of mine was going to an interview with United Airlines to be a flight attendant, and I said, who would want to be a flight attendant? And after 5 interviews, I got the gig, and she didn't. And I was fortunate to fly internationally, because it's so uniquely different than domestic, and you fall in love with Bangkok and Hong Kong, and I mean, London's amazing, and Paris, but Asia is just so different.
So what was the ultimate deciding factor where you decided, okay, because wait, I want to make sure, because you went from dancing to flight attendant, or dancing to school?
Well, I kept dancing and doing that. In fact, I was offered a job at the U, so I taught at the U for 10 years, and I flew weekends. And then when I started Center Stage Dance Studios here, I was a busy boy, but my life was dance and then fly weekends.
Okay. So flew on weekends, danced during the week. You were busy.
So I had Center Stage classes. I taught at the U. An amazing school for dance. We're very, very fortunate to have 2 great universities so close.
Yeah.
And but the U for dance is one of the best.
Better than BYU?
Well, BYU doesn't really have a great jazz program like Broadway dancing and Hollywood. There's this ballroom and folk. Their ballet's okay. Are we recording that part of it? No, I mean, they're 2 different schools. It's the environment's different. For folk at BYU, they're probably the best in the world. Their ballroom team is very good at BYU. I don't know if they have one at the U. But I was hired to teach Broadway level jazz. And if you couldn't dance, you couldn't be in my class. That sounds kind of arrogant or rugged.
Would you be classified as a mean teacher if they were? I mean, I don't think it's mean if you're expecting.
I don't know if I was strict in some things. You know, I had a young man come to my class and was on the front row, and I said, "Would you mind leaving?" And he goes, "Why?" I went, "You can't dance." And you know, the hardest part at the U, you take these classes to go to New York or to Hollywood, and you want to be famous. It's what you want your whole life. And I had a dance company, and I had 10 dancers, just from the U, and this girl auditioned, and I didn't pick her, and she goes, "Why?" And I still remember sitting out on the lawn with her to tell her she couldn't dance, and what a waste of her life it would be. And I can still see it in my head, just crying, and you know, but yeah, it's like
But I
anything.
mean, as a teacher, that's a hard thing to have a conversation with somebody. But you also have to look at the performance as the teacher, as the person putting it on. You want it represented perfectly, and if you have somebody that's not to that caliber, you have to. Those are the things that, you know. I always looked at like American Idol and stuff, and people always hated Simon Cowell, but he was the most honest, real person, and people, even though he was honest with them about what he saw, people still loved him because he gave them the truth. Like you're doing the same thing to those students. Just it's never a fun conversation to have when you tell somebody.
But in any field, like here, people come in to talk to you about hair, and then you'll go, "You really don't know it." Yeah. But so it's in any field, but it's a little more blunt. But I'm in the arts, so if I was in the business world in New York, trying to get a job that was worth millions of dollars, I'd be cut to pieces. So I guess it's no different than Hollywood. So those who do make it, you know, have to give them credit because it's a lot of work.
So then, at what point? At what point did you give up dancing, like not as a teacher, but as a performer? Like, was that when you came here to teach at the U, or were you still doing performances?
I was still dancing, and I tore my shoulder out in a show, and I came home to have some surgery done, and I felt like Utah and the Intermountain area needed a New York type dance studio, so I started Center Stage.
And did you start that in Provo?
We started in Provo. My first class, I thought I was just the hottest thing in the world, and I rented the space, and I thought, okay, I had flyers up at the U and BYU, and you know, we didn't have internet at that time, and I thought my class would be packed. You know how many people showed up? Two. Yeah, 2 people, and I just was devastated, and I went, "Do you not know who I am?" No, but I was devastated because I thought I was offering a lot. But I also realized that probably the most important class I ever taught.
That first class with 2 people. Why was that?
Because they'll walk out and say, "This class sucked, he sucks," or they'll tell their friends. So that was Tuesday. On Thursday, my next class, I was packed, probably about 40 people. And that's how I started Center Stage. And I think when I lost Center Stage and they did that takeover, and it's always going to be very hateful and painful in my life, but...
Because how many years did you have Center Stage?
25.
25 years.
Mm-hmm. And so my feelings, you won't put this on, but I'll see him in hell. That's how I feel about it. And yeah, I mean, it was nasty. It was very ugly part of my life.
That's the business side of it, though. That business side is usually never as fun as the artistic side.
And if I would have been smart, I would have just said, "You don't own squat." But when your friends stab you in the back, it's pretty rough. But then the highlights was teaching at the U and starting a dance company. Jazzing, 8 of my dancers went pro to New York and Hollywood. Then I was a judge for Miss Utah. I became the choreographer for Miss Utah, and that was exciting because these girls would walk in, and the director, the very first time we worked together, he goes, "Okay, who's going to win?" And there are all these girls. Utah's a very big pageant.
Oh, yeah.
Because of all the counties. And I said, well, I can tell you right now who's going to be number one, number two. Because you can just tell. And so I did that for 10 years. I loved it.
So then at what point did you get into Suits? Because because at this point, center stage has gone.
And dance was not my life anymore.
Dance was not.
Nope.
I mean, because the funny thing, I still think one of the very first times that I ever really met and got to know you was you were teaching a Zumba, or not a Zumba. It was like it was a dance class, I guess.
Well, I taught a dance class
at the gym
at Gold's.
And you told me in the salon, you said you should come sometime, and I remember going and being an idiot. You were like doing pirouettes or something, and I would look like the.
Yeah, my class when I taught for Gold's, it was really fascinating. I remember Lynette coming in and she said, "We can only pay you this much money," and I had like 70 in my class, and I went, "Well, you'll go tell my class that I'm quitting."
Well, but I think it was really fun that you still kept dancing. Like you were dancing
forever.
Clear. I mean.
Yeah. Then I had a massive heart attack, and I had to change my life a lot. I lost my job flying because of my health.
Yeah.
So I missed Hong Kong. I missed London. I missed all those cities, and that's how I started Perfectly Suited. So I would just dress my friends in New York and fly to Hong Kong and get clothes made and fly back to New York. And so I had a pretty crazy, fun life. I remember my wife called me in Hong Kong. She goes, "Are you ever coming home?" I went, "Yeah, next week."
So out of all of these like experiences that you've had, what would you say, like giving somebody that's younger, like what is your advice to the young ones that are just starting out? Like,
well, that's hard. If you want it, fight for it. Don't let someone in Provo, Utah tell you can't do it. Don't let someone in Manhattan say you can't do it. Work. Strive for what you want. And then sometimes you'll look in the mirror and go, I don't have that strength. I don't have that ability. I wished I would have gotten better into finance and understanding the value of having a good business, because I'm horrible with money. So thank goodness I have a good accountant. But money's just never been that big of a deal because I always had it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a interesting thing, because I feel like there's a lot of people now that, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm blind to this, but I feel like a lot of people act like they have money now.
Oh. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know where. I mean, and there are people that definitely have money.
There's a lot of money here. We're very fortunate, but a lot of people here live like they have a lot of money, and they don't. I've met them, so.
So fight for what you want.
Well, and be realistic about what your abilities are. I think back then, though, I mean, I was very naive. I grew up in Provo when it was much smaller. And I got to Hollywood, and I didn't know any better. I just knew I went into class and couldn't do certain things, and a month later I was better than most. So yeah, that's a hard one. So because some people don't have the talent, like that girl I talked to on the lawn, she didn't. She thought she did. and to be realistic and try to help somebody in a guidance and direction that they want. That's hard. Because I don't know everything. I think I'm good. It's like Perfectly Suited. I started that, and we have a very good name, but I've strived and fought to make sure that every client's happy.
Well, and I'll still say you make some of the best suits that I've ever seen.
Well, I think we do a very good job. We're definitely unique for Utah. Now there are other companies who do it. I was the first, but there's just, life's amazing. And when you hear people say it's horrible, then I've had 6 heart attacks, 2 open heart, and I want to be here as long as I can. And you know that, Mike.
Oh yeah,
I do.
Well, life is a precious thing. I mean, it's one of those things you never know when your time's coming. And I think that you've shown through a lot of, the things that I've interacted with you, like you really do show living life to the fullest and really be enjoying every minute. And there's been times that I'm sure have been really heartbreaking and devastating. And,
of course, we all go through that, though.
But as long as I've known you, you've always seemed to be positive.
Yeah, but I'm grateful I've been blessed to not give up. No.
The thing that I find cool about your story is you've had basically 3 different careers that aren't really related.
No.
Like at all. But you have, it seems to me like you kind of approach life with an openness that, you're open to the possibility of what could happen. And it doesn't seem like you really judge much,
I don't have the right to judge, but don't you dare judge me. Because you don't have that right. And you'll meet people who think they have it, and I'll tell you where you could, because nobody has that right.
Yeah.
And we do meet people every day that want to judge and put you in a place where you don't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're hard enough on ourselves. And I've been very fortunate that, when you go through all these things and you just keep fighting, you can't give up.
I mean, and it's good to have those mentors that'll actually encourage you to keep going. But I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes it's refreshing to hear somebody just tell you.
Yeah,
it's hard, but
it is hard.
Tomorrow's another day, and we'll keep
and you
moving
wake up,
forward.
and how do you want to live that day? That's
Yep.
your choice. So you could come up and go, Garth, you can do it. That's not your choice. It's my choice. And I'm the only one that can change that. You can have all the people in the world offer. I had an experience when I lost center stage.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most horrible thing I'd ever been through. That 2 people came in and said, we own more stock than you do and we don't want you here. And they didn't own anything. I just said, one day, there are days I'd walk in and go, oh, you're so awesome, we'll give you 5% or 10%. But nothing was ever written, nothing was, it was just being a nice guy. And so they said, well, together we own 51%, so we want you out of here. And it's very interesting. The guy who was the beginning of it all came into Perfectly Suited and wanted to suit. Yeah.
You sold him a suit?
I told the young man working there to take care of him when I left.
So out of all of these things in your life that you've gone through, dancing, flight attendant, where do you think you found the most happiness?
I don't know. Dance was my whole life. I mean, my whole life was dance. So that gave me great joy. I met amazing people. I helped kids, make it to where they wanted to be professionally.
Did it help? Because your wife was also into dance.
Yeah, Lynn taught the folk dancers at BYU, and
did that help keep that, like, you have a wife that's also interested in the same?
Well, we were both interested in dance, but totally different ways of perspective of dance. She was into folk at BYU, and at BYU, you're restricted in some things. I was theater trained jazz, which you see on Broadway and movies. Very different perspective on what we're doing, and yet she was amazing. She was offered the program when the director, Mary B. Jensen, was going to retire. Mm-hmm. And Lynn said, I have children to raise. And she went part-time. But if you would have known part-time works harder than full-time, then she would have done it. But no, I have 4 great kids. And Lynn died suddenly 10 years ago. So this sounds weird, but if you're going to have a funeral, have a damn good one, and she did.
Yeah. Well, I remember. I was there. I remember it was.
And you're in that shock stage, and your children will never forget it, and miss their mom. And I've rattled for an hour, and you cut my hair so short, Mike. No, I'm kidding.
In a week it'll be back to normal. It'll be back to the same. Well, I mean, since we're wrapping up, I just want to get your one thing that I think that every time I see you, you always tell me the same thing, and I think when I think of you, I think this is kind of the mantra that you have. But every time I see you, you always tell me to go home, give my wife and my kids a hug and a kiss, tell them that you love them. Is that kind of what would you say is your life's greatest?
Well, my life has been
advice?
So many stages. There was the age, and you think you know everything, and you're God's gift to the world. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm very blessed to be doing what I do with Perfectly Suited and dressing men and people for weddings. I had a billionaire. You never know who walks through the door. They're amazing, all of them. And no matter what they do, they're your client, and you want them to leave happy. And we're human, so we do make mistakes, but we'll do everything to make it happy. So taking the time to go home, put your arm around somebody that you love, and just say, I love you. And there are days when that person may want 5 minutes by themselves, and that happens. And to think that marriage or life is perfect, it's not. So, and I don't know why I'm saying most of this stuff, but anyway.
Because it's important, that's why.
Well, it's important to me.
And it's meant something to you. And I've talked to a lot of people about, I think a lot of people throughout life, we always look at our life and think that works for us, so therefore we're going to share everything that has worked for us with other people. And maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't, but as long as it's working for you, share it.
Well, and I think, we know that what you were at 20 years old mm-hmm. and what you are now are 2 different people. I see people at the gym who just think they own the gym, and nobody and where will they be in 5 years?
Yeah.
We have kids who come in to get suits, getting married, and think they're gaga in love. Where will they be in 5 years? And that's the fact of the realistic, but at being 20, you know everything, so you're going to be fine. Then all of a sudden you're 60 and go, crap, I don't know squat.
Well,
anyway.
I don't know. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your stories.
Talked a lot, sorry.
No, I don't ever apologize for telling your story. You're amazing. I'm so lucky I get to know you, who you are, and I'm glad that
You're
whoever's
kind.
listening to this will get to know you now too. So
You're just kind, but I'm just Garth. I'm just Garth.
well, Garth, you're all right in my book.
Well,
So,
thanks, bud. So are you.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it.